Hello, Andrew Sweeney here, and welcome to Lesson 2 in our 3-part mini-series. Now, I hope you're finding this valuable. Now, if you've not seen Lesson 1, you should go watch that before watching this one. You're not going to get the full benefit if you don't. It'll feel disjointed. So let's get to the lesson. Now, it's worth spending time getting the basics right. Once you understand the fundamentals, creating a digital course as a means to build the life you want is actually pretty easy. You've likely heard others tell you can make 6 or even 7 figures working pretty much part-time. And they're right, you can. And I'm going to do my very best to give you a few techniques to help you do just that. I know exactly what it takes to be a successful course creator. I've been involved with digital courses for over 20 years. I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen a lot, and I've learned a lot. And one thing I learned a long time ago is if you get it wrong at the start, if you don't start creating your course the right way, it's almost impossible to pull it back later. This is why so many course creators don't succeed. They start wrong. What I'm teaching in this mini course is how I used to teach course creators when I owned Infinite Skills, and I grew that business to 8 figures before I sold the company. What I'm teaching is how I tell my private clients to start because it works. There's no fancy to it. It's just a real simple process, and it works because it's simple. First, let's quickly recap on the last lesson. In Lesson 1, we covered getting your mindset right and why it's important to be totally confident in your ability. We talked about validating your course idea and how to make sure you're not missing out on any opportunities that might be right under your nose. We covered the basics for researching your topic and your market. And I also placed, or at least I hope I did, a strong emphasis on looking for questions your potential audience are asking so you can dial your topic in. In this lesson, we're staying on a similar theme, but this time, we're switching our focus more towards your prospects. We're going to see how the research you did in the last lesson forms a foundation for this lesson. Let's assume, for the purpose of this lesson, you've locked in your topic and you're happy with that. You're now ready to start building your course. Makes logical sense. You've decided what you're going to cover, so now it's time to cover it. Well, no, not quite. Just hold on a little. You may have locked in your topic, but now you've got to decide exactly what you're going to cover in your course content-wise. This lesson is going to give you the means to find the answers to help you come up with deciding what to cover. Let's start by looking at how our typical new course creator handles this. And this, by the way, is totally the wrong way of doing it. They start to map out their course. They're all excited. They want to really over-deliver, give value for money. They work for days on the outline, making sure nothing's left out. And because they're very well aware of what the competitors are offering content-wise, they give more. They really go to town on it. Well, what's wrong with this? Well, there are a few things wrong here, and these will likely cause you to fail, or at best, make it far harder to finish. Let's break this down, and by the way, I'm speaking from experience here. This is how I started creating courses. This is where I went wrong. It's why I very nearly failed, so I know this is 100% true. Let's look at over-delivering on the customer's expectations because this is a biggie. If you've never created a course before, you've got no idea how long something takes. I can promise you this, whatever time frame you have in your head, you're wrong. You've totally underestimated it because all new authors do. The likelihood is you're going to run out of enthusiasm and get overwhelmed before you even get close to finishing. In my experience, 80% of all new course creators never get their first course finished because they try to over-deliver. Don't do this. And look at it from the customer's point of view. The more content you provide, the more they have to wade through to get a result. Remember this, customers don't want information, they want transformation. The value of your course has got nothing to do with duration, in fact, the opposite. If you can deliver a result in half the time, with half the number of modules as your competitor can, your course is actually worth far more. When you're planning out your course, you need to be focused. The question you constantly need to ask yourself is, what's the minimum amount of content you have to provide to deliver a result? Because if you never finish your course, if the customer never manages to get to the end, all the effort, the cost, the long hours, they've been a total waste. This is where your research comes in. But it's important at this point, before you start to even think about outlining your course, that you understand a few basics. So listen up because this is pretty important. Now, I'm going to keep this lesson as short as I can and try and cram as much in without losing the message, so here goes. When you're building a course, you've got to kind of split it into two sections: creating the content, and that's all the stuff inside your course if you like, and selling your course. Before somebody buys your course, they have to be totally convinced that you can deliver on what you're promising, and they have to believe that they're going to be able to achieve it. If they don't, they're not going to buy. Makes sense? The first thing you have to understand about selling your course is you've got to be selling what somebody wants. Now, I know you're thinking, well, yeah, of course, talk about stating the obvious, Andrew, but this is where it all goes wrong. This is what most new course creators don't understand. They're totally fixed on delivering what the audience needs in order to get a result. I mean, even now, without much research, I bet you've already got a pretty good idea what your audience needs in order to get a result, right? But here's the problem. People buy what they want, not what they need, and there's a huge difference between need and want. Buying is pretty much driven by emotion. We buy based on emotion and then justify that purchase with logic. We all do. We do it all the time. My wife is constantly doing it. You wouldn't believe how many logical reasons there are to buy a pair of shoes. Your job is to sell them what they want, but then give them what they need. You wrap up the need in a nice thick coating of what they want. Like when you're trying to give your pet a tablet, what do? You place it inside a treat. What they need, wrapped in what they want. Same thing. So you've got to understand your prospects on two levels. To sell, you need to know what they want. And to educate, you need to know what they need. Let's take a look at what's going to prevent them from buying your course, because before you can deliver a result, you've got to get them to buy your course. Your audience are going to have objections about buying your course, and also objections about trying to achieve their goal. Let's take weight loss, for example. Most people can relate to this. The objections of somebody trying to lose weight could be, I don't like salad. The portions in the diet leave me hungry and I end up snacking. I don't have time to exercise. These are objections that are related to the overall end result, and they're likely based on past experience. So, let's say your solution is a healthy eating plan. Most of the objections you're going to encounter about buying your course are going to be based on past experiences, what they've been told by friends or by some other third party. The objections they have could be, I work long hours so I don't have time to cook fancy meals. I've tried them before and I don't like most of the food. I find it hard to source all the ingredients. There are likely more, but you get the idea. Your job before you start to create your course is to find out as many of these objections as you can. You want to find out where the objections have originated from, and then you need a way to overcome them. You need to address them outright when you're selling your course. And you also need to make sure that you're addressing them with the content inside your course. Now, I bet you're thinking, why am I bringing up selling your course before you've even created it? Well, because while you're doing your research for what topics to cover inside your course, I also want you to be paying attention to this. You may as well do all the research for creating your course and selling your course at the same time. It'll save you a lot of extra work. Because there's quite a bit of crossover between selling and creating, so it makes sense to do it at the same time. So let's just look at the information you need. While you're nailing down what to cover inside your course, working out what's the minimum you have to teach to get a result, I also want you finding out what objections your customers have. Now, to make this easier, I've included two worksheets you can download, and they're located just below this video. One covers customer objections and the other is related to your content creation. Once you've downloaded them, you're going to use what we're covering in the remainder of this lesson, coupled with your own experience and the research that you did in Lesson 1 to fill them in. Your research for this lesson is going to begin by reviewing the research you did from Lesson 1. When you've reviewed that, then it's time to go back to Facebook and YouTube, like you did in Lesson 1, and just dig a little deeper. You're looking for answers to questions that are listed in the downloadable worksheets. Now, when you've collected a bunch of objections, you're going to have a good starting point. You'll have an idea of the most common objections. Now you've got to figure out what's likely to cause those objections, if you can. So don't worry if you can't do this with every objection. This takes time. But what you do need to do is work out how you can address these objections. And stories and case studies are great for breaking down objections. Let me give you a quick example of what I'm talking about with objections. Say your course is on weight loss, and one objection your prospects keep mentioning is, and I'm totally making this up, say the objection is, I can't lose weight because I don't like the food in diets. To answer that objection, you may offer a story of how one of your students lost £70 by making just a few small changes each week. What you do is offer proof that the objection is really easy to overcome, and stories, true stories, are great for doing this. Now, you can offer proof in testimonials or via demonstration if you like, but stories really work well here. If you've got no stories from past clients, maybe you've got a story yourself of how you overcame the objection. That works. I really want you to think about each objection, list it, and list the likely reason for it, and also how you're going to address it. You can also list what the pain is for not solving the objection. That will come in handy when you're selling your course. But let me just be really clear here with objections. I'm not talking about just addressing them in your sales copy. I'm talking about making sure your course content actually takes these objections into account. For the purpose of this lesson, I'll just go over the questions that are included in the working file. The objection questions are: what has my prospect likely already tried to cure their problem? Have they bought a course before or some other form of learning content and they failed to get a result? Why did they fail? What objection has past failed attempts created in their mind? If they've never tried, what's stopping them from trying? What false beliefs do they currently have, and why is this? What caused these false beliefs? List the biggest pain points your audience has right now and then put them in order of importance. If I was doing this for course creation, the objections could be lack of time, no good with tech, I have no confidence on camera. You get the idea. Take these 5 questions and then come up with 5 to 10 reasons for each one if you can, and then enter them into the working file. Next, we've got some basic questions to help you for when you're creating your content. The bare basic questions that you need to answer are: what is the problem from my customer's point of view? And then describe it in detail. What does my prospect think is the hardest part to solving their problem? What do you know is the hardest part to solving their problem? What do I have to cover to have them believe that I have a solution? What level of knowledge about the problem do my audience already have? How can I create content that addresses audiences with different levels of experience? What interim goals could I include to give them a quick win and keep their confidence up? What's the minimum amount of steps that I have to complete so I can deliver on my promise? And list this out at an eye level. You don't have to go deep just yet, just an outline. When you've researched the object and the content questions and you've got the answers, you're going to be in a far better place to work out what you have to include lesson-wise. So before you start to think about what content you're going to put into your course, get the answers to all these basic questions first. Even if you can't get all the answers from your research, just sitting down with yourself and thinking about each one and then using your experience to answer the questions, this is really going to help. Now, one part of researching that I've not touched on yet is past customers or people that you can speak to, people who are trying to achieve the result that you're offering. These can be incredibly valuable, provided you ask the right questions. You don't want to be leading them. You don't want to be giving them new avenues to consider. You want what's on their mind now. Don't go giving them ideas of things that they've never thought of. Let them talk and listen. Questions like, so why haven't you tried to fill in the blank? Or what's the one thing that you wish you could do so you could fill in the blank? Totally open-ended questions. You get the idea. This kind of research is going to set you apart from most of the course creators and your competitors. Most people don't go to this much trouble. For you to create a successful course, it has to be designed from the outset to deal with the objections. How most course creators do it is totally backwards. They create their course based on what they think their customers need, and then when they come to sell it, they try to convince their prospects in the sales copy that their product does indeed offer a solution to what they want, even if it doesn't. If you're not covering it in the course, you can't say you are when you come to selling it. It's not rocket science. Prospects are wise. Unless your product addresses their objections and is truly different from anything they've tried before, they will see right through your sales copy. Never assume your audience's lack of knowledge is the same as a lack of intelligence. It's not. All this research may not seem very glamorous, but the success of your course rests on delivering a course that people want, and that, my friend, means research. I would like you now to go and do the exercise and let me know how you get on. Post your comments, questions and results in the Facebook group. I'd love to hear from you and help if I can. When you've completed this lesson and lesson 1, you're going to be a lot clearer on your topic and if there are any opportunities that you may have missed. You should have a pretty good idea what your audience wants and needs, and you'll have a foundation for knowing what content to create. Now your chances of becoming a successful course creator have increased massively. In the next lesson, we're going to take a look at the biggest enemy of the course creator and how you can combat it. So I look forward to seeing you there.